What's up, everybody? Jason Creel, Lawn Care Life. It is Saturday, April the 8th, 2023, and we are live here on YouTube. Appreciate you guys joining in. Whenever you're ready, you can leave a comment. We're going to be talking whatever you want to talk about as far as lawn care, as far as your business, as far as your own personal yard. Some of you guys have followed me for a while, been on YouTube, I guess 12 years now. I don't know. But looking forward to the conversation. I also have a special guest that will be coming on here in about 15 minutes or so. Hopefully, if all the technical difficulties get worked out on their end. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, just wanted to make myself available so we can talk about lawn care. So post your questions. I do want to say, as always, thankful for my two regular sponsors. You got Yard Book and Graham Spray Equipment, both great companies I partner with. Graham makes the spray rig that I've been using for years. Yard Book, I've been using Yard Book since 2015 to manage my business. So if you need a software or spray rig, you can support those guys. So just trying to tell you what's doing in my yard, my business. I run a solo operating weed controlled fertilization company, and I have just finished up my second round. We start my third round soon. I'm in Alabama, so we have to get an early start on some of our yards, try to get my pre and post emergent down, my first application before the end of February. And then I started in March fertilizing with a slow release polymer coated fertilizer. And I got that done. So pretty much got everybody fertilized, everybody sprayed for weeds. And then I'll go back, probably starting in about 2 weeks. I'll start spraying 2 or 3 weeks. We're spraying another round of pre-emergent and post-emergent. So you guys participate, ask questions as you go. Again, special guest coming up in about 12 minutes. And then along the way, we will be taking your questions. So anytime you're ready, fire away. So Jason, to use sulfate of potash K on centipede, lots of forums say, how do you say that? Muriate of potash excess salt is bad for centipede. Trying to remember the blend I've got right now is 1819. So, on your NPK scale there, you're 9. And I need to get my friend James on here. He's an agronomist and one that mixes those blends. But anyway, that's what I'm doing. 1819 blend twice a year. Try not to go over 2 pounds of nitrogen per calendar year. So when I put that out, 18 pounds of nitrogen in the bag, or 18% in a 50-pound bag. So it's 9 pounds of nitrogen in the bag. So you think if that bag, a 50-pound bag, if you cover 10,000 square feet, you're putting out 0.9 pounds of N per 1,000 square feet. And then if I do that twice, which is what I'm doing, typically in May, again in like July, then I'm still under that 2 pounds per 1,000. But yeah, there is some K in the blend there. So John says, hello, is this live? Yes, it is. It seems like most centipede is struggling in North Louisiana with fungus, and they get worse every year. I'm about to throw in town. Yeah, I mean, Shane, I don't know if you're a business, have a business or whatever, but like for my business, like where I live in the Birmingham market, we're probably 80% Bermuda. I would say next would be zoysia, and then below that centipede, and then just a handful of St. Augustine. And the centipede, a lot of the companies around here don't mess with them. Now I know some places that's what the majority grass type, but what happens is, like this year, it happened. I had a customer text me. He said, hey, my centipede's brown. Did you do something? Well, he wasn't necessarily accusing me, but it was basically centipede seems to be one of the first ones to turn green. So it'll start turning green in March. It's turning green. Then we get a late frost and it zaps it and it turns it brown. And then it comes back, but that's just what happened. It looks terrible. Fungus can be an issue, especially if we have a wet fall or something like that. I hadn't noticed the fungus is bad this year in my area, but again, some of that may depend on how much rain you guys had in the fall. But yeah, and then weed control is a little bit challenging. I started using on my centipede yards. I still use spectacle in the fall. I'm using like 4 ounces per acre. But I still end up with weeds early in the year, and then I'll spray them in January. This year I use methylfuron at a really low rate and change up at a really low rate. But in the past, I've used atrazine and stuff like that. But you still end up with some weeds. And then it gets this time of year in the spring, it's hard to spray them. Like ours are still kind of in this transition mode. So if I go in there and spray them with something, that's going to kill the weeds, then it ends up, you delay the green up stuff. So yeah, it's a little bit frustrating dealing with the centipede yards. Now I just tell people, like, listen, you just have to live with some weeds in the spring on the centipede yards. I don't know a great solution, but what I can do is just try to talk them into say, hey, by May, if things going to be green, start mowing it an inch and a half. I can spray it in May, finish off any other weeds, and typically they look great in the summer. It's just getting to that spring. All right, Charles says, at what point did you decide on pulling the trigger on using Spectacle? I have some Bermuda lawns in North Carolina. Poa is crazy. Just hesitant to spend that much on the product. Yeah, I guess it was 4 or 5 years ago when I started using it in the fall, and then last year I used it again in late April through May for dove weed and you might not have any dove weed there, but it's a terrible weed. But I saw it made a huge difference on Kalinga and just in general warm season weeds. But the Kalinga in particular, which was just terrible, I'd still see Kalinga, but it would kind of suppress it. And so I just thought for me it was worth doing. And I'm going to do it again this year. Now, it is expensive, no doubt. But when you crunch the numbers, I mean, it's not, well, here's one thing that helps me. I got a lot of little bitty yards. So my margins are pretty good on those little bitty yards, like a 3,000 square foot yard. I mean, let's just say you charge $40, whatever. It's pretty good. Your price per thousand is pretty good to where if Spectacle's $3 per thousand or whatever it is, when you break it down, it's not terrible. But on a big yard, if you're only charging $6 per thousand, which I'd probably have to charge more to use Spectacle twice a year, I get your point. You're not making that much money. But I think it works great that I'm using it twice a year now instead of just once. And what you could do, one option, Charles, is like see which yard in the fall, like right now, just kind of mark off your yards which have a terrible POA problem and use it just on those. And the ones that are not that bad, just don't worry about it. But I mean, POA is such a pain to get rid of once in the spring, and it looks terrible in our warm season grasses. And so for me, it was just worth it. I mean, but I will say this: I got 2 or 3 yards that just get eat up with POA even when I spray Spectacle. I mean, it's just like, forget it. I mean, these yards are just a problem. Chris says, hey, Jason, use any type of respiration protection when spraying all your pre and post emergence? No, I don't. I mean, I wouldn't blame you if you did. But, I try to use common sense as far as even when mixing chemicals, you're using a lot higher, concentrate out there mixing. So I try to make sure I'm out in fresh, open air. Of course, when I'm spraying, I'm wearing PPE, rubber boots, long sleeves, long pants, rubber gloves. But I don't typically wear a respirator. Good morning from Charles. Good Saturday morning. I have an abundance of vetch plus other nuisance weeds on my centipede lawn. Always seems like a different variety of weeds each spring. I've been using Trimec. Vetch, if I remember, is kind of that long, almost a vine looking thing. It's like super easy to pull up. I'm not recommending you go out there and pull it all up. Yeah, I mean, this time of year, I think while it's in transition, atrazine, to my understanding, is about the one thing you can spray that's going to get rid of stuff without delaying the green up. Like I love using change up. I use a super low rate. I mean, but I wouldn't spray a centipede yard. At least in my area, they're still transitioning. Now, once it turns green, which may be just in a few weeks, then you spray it with change up. You'll wipe all that stuff will die in 2 days, just about. But I'd be careful doing it during transition. All right. John says, in ortho wheat, he's been using Trimec and ortho wheat begun. Probably too early in North Carolina and centipede, but the weeds are bugging me. Well, one thing I would do, John, I'd just start mowing it. Man, I'd mow it at an inch or inch and a half and just start mowing it. And that helps. I mean, I know the weeds are ugly, but you do that, I think you'll get rid of some of them. And then, like I said, once it turns green, I just think change up all the broadleaf weeds. Change up just knocks them out so fast. And but don't spray the changeup while it's transitioning because it will seriously delay the grain or metzel or any of those. I've done that before, and it turns the yard yellow, and it looks terrible. It takes weeks to not be yellow again. All right, let's see. Are you still using your permagreen? Are any interest in different? Well, yeah, I've actually got some news on that. The permagreen, I sold it probably 3 or 4 years ago to a friend of mine, and he's still using it, which is great. He's local and a good guy, so he's been using it for a while, and I think it's doing great. I had a Ground Logic. The reason I switched over and got the Ground Logic, I like the spiker hopper. I just like the way it spread a little better. The Ground Logic to me, which is now a Ferris machine, but it's pretty much the same as the old Ground Logic. It was great. I don't think it's necessarily the greatest built machine, but I just like the way it operates, and it's very good on hills. That was kind of the main thing. It's good on hills. It was small. I could carry it on the rack on the back of my truck. But actually, just this week, I'm trying to remember, it was this week, maybe Monday or maybe it was last Friday. I can't remember. But anyway, I just got the 2023 Z Spray, the one of the big ones. They got like the junior, the mid, the max, and I got the mid, which I believe, I'm trying to remember if it's like a 52-inch boom or 60-inch. I can't remember. But, and that was part of a sponsorship deal where Z Spray provided that for me. And they sent somebody out here just a couple of days ago to film me on that thing. And we had a friend of mine has a 2017 Z Spray, and we were kind of comparing the old one to the new one. So they acquired Z Spray several years ago and hadn't made that many changes to the product. Well, this 2023 model, they came out with a bunch of new, basically a redesign and try to improve a lot of things. So I have one now. I'm planning on starting to use it more, especially on larger properties. And they were out here showing me how to work it. Yeah, I mean, I can drive it, but it just takes some time getting used to a new machine, which button to push. And I don't think it's going to take long, to be honest with you, but it is going to take just a minute to get the hang of it. All right. To use anything specific to spray weeds in beds that won't kill the flowers and shrubs? Well, you got a few options for that. I mean, you can use like a granular product, like Freehand is one, Snapshot's another. So that's a granular pre-emergent that you can just spread over the top of the bed. Like Preen is one you might can just go buy at a big box store. But you use that and you spread it over. But it's a pre-emergent. So you still, I would take like glyphosate or something and still spray the existing weeds around the beds. But I quit doing the freehand, all that. So I started using my SureGuard. SureGuard is the product. Now that's expensive. People fall on the floor when they see it. It's like $600 for half a gallon or something. But it's like a 1/4 ounce per acre is the rate. So I'll just take the SureGuard and mix it with glyphosate and spray. Now I can't spray over the top of the shrubs or flowers. You just spray. And you really don't need to spray where you're going to plant flowers. And I spray around the shrubs. And that way I only have to go over the bed one time. Where the granular thing, I had to spread the granular, then go back and spray the weeds. And it just saved me some time. Here's a great question from Alex. How tall are you? I'm 6 feet tall, Alex. All right, I'm going to bring on our guest here. And it's going to have a story time here. And then you guys keep asking questions. You ask questions to me, ask questions to my guest. And then we'll continue the discussion. I'll be on here till about for another 45 minutes or so. I plan on seeding my backyard with Yukon Bermuda seed. Any advice, do's and don'ts? 100% weeds. I would kill off everything, spray it once or twice, maybe even Roundup, try to just kill it totally dead. I'd also wait till it gets hot, at least 85 degrees. So you might wait till May or even June. And then you get biggest things like how you're going to keep it watered. And if you can just get some of it to sprout, you don't have to get necessarily 100% coverage, but Bermuda will really spread a lot. So irrigation, killing off all the stuff before you do it, and then just fertilize. Once it gets going, you fertilize, it'll fill in. So all right, special guest here. This is my dad, Jeff Creel. He's a fan of the show, I guess you'd say. Let's see if I can get his name on here. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Jason, how you doing?
Is your I'm not sure. Let me see, make sure you're not muted. Can y'all hear my dad? I'm not sure his sound's coming through.
Hello, testing 1, 2.
I
Testing.
can't hear you.
Hold on.
Can y'all hear him? I can't hear him. So I'm thinking something's not working as far as the sound goes.
Testing. 1, 2,
Y'all let
3.
me know if you can hear my dad or not. Oh, he said, yes, it is. I wonder
They
why I
can't.
can't hear him. Loud and clear. I can't hear him. That don't make any sense. Let me see if my sound's missing. Or they can hear you. I just can't hear you. So I don't know what's going on.
I don't know, Jason.
Okay. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. I don't know why I can't hear you. Well, I think I just muted you. Let me unmute you. All right. Well, whatever. They can hear you. We're just going to have to, you're just going to have to talk because I can't hear you. But anyway, this is my dad. I'll tell you what I could do is maybe put him on I could maybe put him on some other way to listen. All right. My dad, he actually does mow grass. He's retired and he works one day a week. Mowing lawns, and I'm actually brought me out of retirement from my lawn mowing career. I used to, before I sprayed yards, I used to mow yards a lot, and he's having back surgery this week, so I'm gonna be filling in for him one day a week and sharpening up my lawn mowing skills. And so all the people that on Instagram like to tell me how terrible the lawnmower I am, lawnmower. I'll be improving here shortly. So, all right. Well, what I want to do is my dad. He worked for the telephone company AT&T and whatever, they changed names a bunch, but basically AT&T. The guys that drive around the trucks and fix your telephones and all that kind of stuff, climb up on the poles and use bucket trucks. And that's what he did for 40 or 41 years or so. So somebody asked if it's going to be on my YouTube for viewing later. Yes, it will be. So anyway. My dad, and we talked about this before, like lawn care is one of those outside jobs. It's just like working on telephone stuff, and you interact with the public and you go in their houses sometime. I mean, hopefully not too much with lawn care, but they come out and interact with you. And sometimes animals become an issue. I've shared stories on here where this one bulldog, I still see him every time I go by there, but he likes to chase me around on my ride-on fertilizer spreader and try to bite the tires and everything. I just can't stand that dog. And dogs will bark at you. And they just, about 7 out of 10 dogs hate the lawn care person. The other 3 are nice. But anyway, my dad wants to share a story about when he worked, and this was years ago, worked at the phone company about just dealing with animals. And I think you'll enjoy the story, but also you guys probably can relate to it, because if you did do lawn care long enough, you probably had some incidences with animals and deal with them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove myself from the screen because I can't hear, and I'm going to let Dad. You're just going to have to talk because I can't hear you. So you just tell a story, and I'll try to moderate the comments. Y'all ask him any questions you got, but I'm going to take myself off the screen and let him.
Okay, I'm Jeff Creel. I'm Jason's dad. And like he said, I was a telephone man for over 40 years. And in that amount of time, I've been to a lot of houses. And I've watched a lot of Jason's videos, and I've never heard him really talk about animals. But when you go to a house, especially if you've never been there before, like if you were going to go check out a new customer, if you were going to be their lawn care provider, then you don't know what kind of animals they've got, if they've got pit bulls or, any kind of dogs or cats or whatever. But it's, if you're a telephone man, the difference in being a telephone man is if you go to fix their phone, if you do a good job, then you'll probably never be there again for the rest of your life. But that first initial time that you go out there, you don't know what they've got, if they've got animals or not. And so this was back in the early 80s, a long time ago. And they just had started using push button telephones and I was a telephone man worked in the rural part of Alabama, out in Walker County. And it was out in the country, and out in the country, you're liable to see anything. You go up to a house and most people would have, a dog or a cat, but these people would have sheep and goats and ponies and all kind of stuff, out in the country. But I like working out in the country. I enjoyed that. But this one day, I won't never forget it. It was a Friday afternoon, and dispatch had called me, and they give me a trouble. They said, we got one out here and on Old Somerville Road, and people's out of service and we need to get them fixed. So I said, okay, I'm headed that way. And so I've never been there before in my life. And so I go out to this old farmhouse in the country, and it's got a long, windy dirt driveway. And I go riding out there, and I'm just looking around, and I'm seeing some animals, got a few cows and horses and stuff like that. And I get out to the house, and I get out of the truck and get my tool pouch on, go up to the front door and knock on the door, and nobody's at home. So anyway, I see just farm animals of different kinds walking around, nothing unusual. But my first step is to go to the phone box on the side of the house to see if I've got dial tone there, and then I'll know which way to get my trouble is. So I go around there, and the box is real low to the ground. Back in that day, the box was just a little bitty black thing that had 2 fuses in it, but that's the place where you would check for dial tone. So I go around there and I squat down on my knees, and I'm working on this, doing some tests, trying to figure out where my trouble is. And I get this feeling. I don't know if you've ever had this feeling or not, but it just felt like somebody was watching me. And I look around over my shoulder and behind me, and I don't see anything. And but I kept having that feeling, and hair starting to stand up on the back of my neck. And so finally, I'm sitting there working, and all of a sudden I see a shadow kind of cast out over the top of me, from behind. And so I knew something was back there, and I turned around and looked, and it's what I suppose was a turkey. I didn't have a whole lot of experience in them days with turkeys. I wasn't a turkey hunter, but this thing was giant. And I don't know how big turkeys are supposed to get, but I guess this thing right off the bat is about 72 pounds. I thought this thing is like huge. It looked like something off of Jurassic Park. And it's standing there and is staring at me. It's got these beady eyes, and that thing is giving me the creeps. And I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with the phone, and it's walking back and forth and back and forth, and just giving me the eye. So anyway, I get up. It was dead there at the side of the house. So my next thing I had to do was go climb a telephone pole in these people's yard. And we'd had some lightning late recently, and it knocks a lot of phones out. So I go over to my truck and I get my hooks out and strap them on my feet. I'm walking to the telephone pole, and I hear something, and I turn around and look, and this turkey is running wide open at me. And I had my climbing belt on my shoulder, and climbing belts is a big, hefty belt. It's about 8 inches wide, and it's got a lot of tools and stuff that we need to fix people's phones once we get up the pole. So I just take it off my shoulder, and I swing it around there, and I hit that turkey and just knock him out of the way, And not that I was trying to abuse anybody's pet or farm animal, but this thing was, he kind of scared me a little bit. So I knock him out of the way. I thought, well, you goofy turkey. And so he goes over ways, and I go over there and climb the telephone pole, and I'm up there working on the phone lines, and I think I got it fixed. I find a wire that's been blown into by lightning, and I get it put together. And so I climb down the pole, and I'm walking back to my truck. And I go back, and I'm taking my climbers off and putting them away. And I look over there, and there's a turkey standing in the front yard. He's between me and the phone box. Well, I need to get back over there and make sure I got the phone fixed. So in the back of my truck, I had a pole. It's called a layup stick. It's 6 foot long, and you could take phone men would carry them on their trucks, and you could take 2 or 3 of them and hook them together and put like a saw blade on there and cut tree limbs off of phone wires. And you had different things that you could use it for. But the one thing I would use it for is just I would pull it out of the back of the truck, and if I pulled up to a house and they had a big mean looking dog, I just hold it up and show it to them. And a lot of times the dog would just kind of whine and run off around the house, and I wouldn't really have to get into a fight with it, you know, but the dog didn't know me and I didn't know him, and they were just protecting their house, you know. So I get this stick out and I hold it up and show it to that turkey, and he wasn't real impressed with it. He kind of walked around, let me get around there to the side of the house to check the phone, and I get around there, and I've got a good clean dial tone there, so I think, well, okay, I did a good job. So I stand up and I turn around and look, and there's the turkey between me and my truck. So uh, I'm thinking right off the bat, me and him are probably not going to be good friends. And I hold that stick up and show it to him, and he's just staring at me. He ain't paying it no mind at all. And he's about 20, 25 foot away from me, and he's staring at me and staring at me, and then he kind of bends over, takes his hands and puts them on his hips, starts scratching his feet, and then here he comes. He starts running straight at me, wide open, and flies up. And I take that stick and I swing it and I hit him and I knocked him out of the way. I thought, holy cow, this bird is crazy. And so he goes back over there, 20, 25 foot away from me, between me and my truck, and same spot. He gets over there. He looks at me with them little beady eyes, bends over, puts his hands on his hips. He starts scratching in the ground, and here he comes. And he takes off running, and he flies up at my head, and I swing and I hit him again and knock him out of the way. I thought, I don't know how long this is going to go on. Um, third time he goes over there to the same spot. And I don't know what it was about that spot, but that's where he liked to go. And he looks at me and I look at him, and he bends over, puts his hands on his hips. He takes off running and he flies up in the air, and I hit him pretty hard that time. And he goes over there to the same spot. I thought, oh my gosh, this is how long is this going to go on? I kind of felt like uh, in that movie Wide Earp, there's a scene in there if you've ever seen it, and it's got Doc Holliday and Johnny Ringo, and they're fixing to get serious. They're gonna have a duel, and I thought this is fixing to come to a head right here. So I looked over there at that turkey, and I said, "All right, turkey, let's do this." And I pulled that stick back, and I was right in my prime of playing softball back in them days, and I could still hit a ball pretty decent back then because I was a young feller. And I get that stick pulled back, and that turkey bends over, and it's like he's breathing smoke out of his nostrils. He puts his hands on his hips. He's scratching. It looked like a big old buck making a scrape. And he takes off running, and he flies up at my head, throws them wings back, and he's got big old feet. They're big as mine, and they're coming straight towards my face. And I swung as hard as I could swing that time, and I hit that turkey and knocked him down. And I like to come out of my boots. I swung so hard, and I landed on top of him. And I'm jumping up and down as high as I can jump. It felt like I was jumping 3 foot in the air. It's probably really about 3 inches, but I'm jumping up and down and landing on him and kicking him and stomping on him, and he's and beating him with this stick. And I started calling him some bad things. I was calling him some bad turkey names, and he was calling me some bad people names. And when you're, I'm not a real big guy. I'm about 5'8", and when you're 5'8", jumping 3 foot straight up in the air and swinging a 6 foot pole, trying to beat something to death between your legs, is kind of a strange scene. I guess the best way I could describe it would be like a, a midget pole vaulter having some kind of a seizure or something. But I'm beating on this turkey, and there's feathers flying everywhere, and I'm beating on him, and I'm beating on him, and I'm beating on him, and it's just unreal what kind of things going on. And somehow or some way, he gets out from under me. and he goes and staggering, and he's kind of limping, look like maybe I broke his hip or something. I don't know, but he gets over there to his same spot that he'd been going to, and I'm standing there, and my weapon is leaning down in the dirt, and I'm leaned over. I kind of look like that picture you've seen of an old Indian brave sitting on a horse that's battle weary, and his head's leaned over, and his spears laying on the ground. That's what it kind of looked like or felt like. And Turkey's standing over there, and he's got about 2 feathers left on him. He looked like a little old pot-bellied man wearing long underwear. And there's enough feathers on the ground you could have stuffed a queen-size mattress. And so I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know how much more fight I got left in me, but I'm getting to my truck. I'm not going to stay here forever. And so I'm preparing for the next attack, and I hear something, and I look, and here comes a pickup truck pulling up the driveway. And like I said, it's a long, windy dirt driveway. And this guy's in an old Ford pickup truck, about a 71 model, I guess. And he comes driving up, and I'm looking at the truck, and the turkey's looking at the truck. And it's the guy that lives there. I don't remember his name, Mr. Customer, but he comes driving up, and he gets out, and I'm standing there, wore out, breathing hard, and holding that pole, and Turkey's standing over there with all his feathers beat off of him, and the guy looks at me, and he just says, "What's going on?" And I just pointed over there, and I says, "I'm trying to kill him." And he said, my turkey?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "'Cause I hate him." And he says, he looks over there at that turkey, and he says, "Hey, turkey, go on." And the turkey just turned around and walked off. And I thought, oh my goodness, I wished I'd have thought of trying that a few minutes ago. And so the turkey walks off, and the guy, he looks at me, and he says, "Son," he says, "let me ask you a question." He says, are you afraid of turkeys?" And I looked at him, and I said, "I wasn't until about 10 minutes ago." And he just laughed and laughed, and he just thought it was just the funniest thing in the world, you know. I wasn't very amused. And I said, "Mister, I need you to do me a favor." He said, "Okay, what's that?" And I said, "Go in your house and make sure your phone's working." And I said, "'Cause I'm ready to go home." He says, "Okay." So he goes in the house, and I'm standing out there with my stick, looking around, making sure that turkey will come back. And the man comes back out in just a second. He says, "Okay." He said, "The phone's working good." He said, "Sounds great." And I said, "Well, good." He says, hey, let me show you something before you leave." He said, "You want me to show you how to call a turkey?" And I turned around and looked at him, and I said, "I do not." And he said, "Oh, yeah, let me show you how to call one." And he looks around on the ground. He said, "It'll just take a second." And he looks around on the ground there like he's looking for something, and he picked up a bottle cap, and he holds it to his mouth like he's going to blow on it. And I thought, I didn't know what he was fixing to do. And then he leans his head back and points his head up towards the sky, and he starts hollering, "Here, turkey, 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 turkey," and just busts out laughing. He just thinks he's real funny. And so I didn't laugh. I go get in the truck, and I take off, and I look, and here comes a turkey chasing my truck down the driveway. And I had to hit second gear to run away from that turkey. I thought he was going to jump in the back of the truck and follow me back to the plant. But anyway, what I thought, well, I have learned something from this situation right here, and something that y'all could get out of this too. You never know what you're going to face tomorrow. And I've told that to a lot. I've told this story to a lot of people, and I said, I believe that turkey was the devil himself. I believe I was fighting the devil. I said, if not, he was a close relative. I said, but it don't matter how big you are, or how strong you are, or what kind of weapon you got. You can't whip him. You need a Lord and Savior, and it's Jesus Christ who you need. And I found him when I was 39 years old, and you need him too. Now what do I do, Jason? I don't know.
I'm back on here. Can y'all hear me?
I can.
Can you hear me, Dan?
Yeah,
I'm back on here. Y'all hear me? Can you hear me, Dan, or no?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, he said he can hear me. All right. Thanks for sharing that story. Hope you guys enjoyed that. You're welcome to stay on here or go. If anybody has any questions for my dad, y'all ask that quickly. He's got to go somewhere here shortly. So, but I don't know why I can't hear. I pulled it up on my phone, so I was listening. I couldn't hear it on the computer for some reason. So let me go back and see if there's any questions. Yeah, you can hang around for a minute, Dad, if you want, in case somebody has a question, or if you need to go, that's fine. I'll just take you off whenever you leave. So,
Okay.
Somebody, let's see, make sure there's any question about that. They said, "Great story, Lawn Care Life Senior." Now that's a great story. All right, I think they only your dad would be able to tell it was a '71 truck. So. All right, let me go find back my place. Thanks for being on here. Y'all thank my dad for being on here. I appreciate you telling that story.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it. Talk to you later, Jason.
He's been on my channel before. We did edging driveways and mowed a few lawns and stuff. We'll see you later. Okay, let's see where we are. I asked how tall I was. 6 feet. My dad's 5'8", so I outdid him a little bit. Let me turn the dryer on while I was waiting. Hold on. Forgot about that. All right. Do I spray anything to beds? I am seeding. Did that one. Do anything for fungus prevention in Bermuda yards? If so, how many apps? I don't build that into my program, Charles. But what I do is, if you get a yard that has a fungus, like it seemed like to me when I started getting fungus problems on the yard, it was like the same yards that get it every year in the same spot. There'd be a low spot in the yard or whatever that would just didn't drain well, and they would end up getting a lot of fungus problems in that situation. So anyway, my understanding is if you get a fungus that shows up in the spring, a lot of times it had actually started in the fall. So I kind of try to time your fungus application about the time you're going to do that fall pre and post emergent, at least on our warm season grasses. So, before you get that cool night in the fall and it's wet and rains and it goes down to 45 degrees. Now, some of those can also sprout up in the spring, but some of them that you're seeing in the spring, at least on our warm season grasses, they started in the fall. You didn't notice it because the grass was dormant. And then when the grass starts turning green, you see this big brown spot in the yard. Then you think, oh, this fungus just showed up. Well, actually, it might have showed up in the fall. You just weren't ready for it. So if you have a yard that's prone to that, you might put out that fungicide early in the fall to try to get ahead of that. Now, it needs to be watered in. If you do liquid, I think it needs to be with a pretty good bit of water volume, not necessarily on a ride-on spreader sprayer. So if you do granular, it needs to be watered in. Now, if you see it this time of year, again, I might understand it can kind of reactivate, but if you see, let's just say large patch, for instance, I think if you see kind of those orangish looking colors around the perimeter of it, then it's still active and still spreading. But a lot of times when I see it now, it's just brown all the way around, which my understanding means it's probably dead and it's no longer causing damage. And what you want to do is look in the brown area, see if there's any green tissue, plant tissue there. And if you do that, if there's green plant tissue, then you'll be able to start encouraging growth by fertilizer stuff and just give it time to recover. So Triton of CNC says, watching your vinegar weed killer, homemade fire ant killer, do you need a license to spray those type of things for paying customers? I really don't know the answer to that, honestly. I probably not, but I guess you need to check with your Department of Agriculture. I'll be honest, I don't do that stuff for customers. Most of that is kind of made for YouTube kind of content where you mix dish soap and vinegar and salt and all that, I mean, it'll burn a hole in your yard. The salt is not good for the soil. So I mean, if you're going to do it, I'd do it just on like gravel areas or something like that. But I'm not sure about the license. All right, this is where everybody's saying they could hear my dad. I don't know what happened. I couldn't hear him on my computer, and then I pulled it up on my phone so I could listen. But anyway, he likes to tell the turkey story. Morning, the Bama weather, something this week. Yeah, it's raining. It's raining like crazy today. So everybody says, "Hey, Dad." Somebody said, "Will it be available on the YouTube page?" Yeah, it will be. You can watch the whole thing. This guy says, it's our first season and we'll take your course this fall. New Dawn Lawn Care. Okay. Well, that's great. Yeah, my course is mostly for warm season grass. So I know you may be in, I'm not sure where you are, but if you're dealing with cool season grasses, it won't be nearly as helpful. So I would encourage you if you're dealing with warm season grasses. Hello from St. Clair County. That's the next county over from where I live. That's me telling my dad I could hear. Charles, give us all kind of emojis and stuff. Only Dad would tell 71. Hope everybody's having a great day. Thank you for that. Great story. Great story. Yes. All right. How to control dollar weed and tiffweed 429. I thought it was 419. Maybe there's a 429. I don't know. Dollar weed, if I understand, is like that little bitty lily pad thing. I'm telling you, it's a pain. I don't know how to control. I've used all kind of stuff, blindside and change them, all these things I use, and it's tough to get rid of. You might try like a Speed Zone product or something like that, or even I don't know the answer. Okay, I'm just telling you, like Speed Zone, something like that might work, or even I'm wondering if like a solitaire product, which is good on wild violets. If it, I don't necessarily mean it's good on dollarweed. If anybody knows how to kill dollarweed, let me know, because that's hard to kill. Molecular scientist said, thanks for the story, Dad. I want to see a turkey put his hands on his hips. Yeah. Lightspeed Social. If you guys, that's it. Lightspeed is who I've worked with in the past, like email marketing. And this is Cody Owen. You check, you probably hear him on Paul Jameson's podcast, but does the Facebook ads and all that if you're wanting to target that with your business. North Carolina, Jason, warm season grass. All right, that's good. I can help you with those. I'm not much help on the ryegrass and all that. All right, y'all. Okay, here we go. We got an answer. Gardner Earth Guy says, dollar weed control, 3-way and MSM, reduce irrigation, overwatering causes it. Yeah, I mean, if it's the weed I'm thinking about, and again, I think there's 2 or 3 that look similar that have that little bitty lily pad looking things in your yard. I've seen them where it's like full sun and it's almost like growing underneath the established turf. It's not like a weak spot in the turf. It was like great looking sod or pretty good sod, and then they still see that. I mean, I was in there spraying everything I got at it. It just, so maybe it is have to do something on that. Don't spray MSM on your ryegrass. I'm down here warm season grasses, so we use MSM a lot. But you do have people say you got to be careful around oak trees, stuff like that. I use it at 1/4 ounce per acre. I mean, it's the tiniest amount and very low rate. So I think in that situation, it's okay. Is Tribute Total worth it if you only wanted to use one herbicide to spot tree? I mean, yeah, Bermuda and Zoysia, I would say yes. I mean, if you want to simplify it. I would, I often use Celsius and Certainty and mixed together, which is probably a similar cost to what Tribute Total costs by itself. But I did a side-by-side comparison this year on Dallas grass with Tribute Total versus Celsius and Certainty combined, and the Tribute Total actually did better. But what I like about the Celsius and Certainty, I can actually use it on Centipede or Celsius or Bermuda Zoysia, where the Tribute Total is just Bermuda Zoysia, I believe. So, and they both, Tribute Total, I don't know, like on a weed like Kalinga, I'm not sure if it's just got the halosulfuron or whatever it is in there that's just mostly for nut sage, or if it'll actually work on Kalinga as well. Because Certainty and Celsius to some degree have some effectiveness on Kalinga. So I like the versatility of the Celsius and Certainty, and I like that it, in my mind, it definitely works on Kalinga and nut sage. Where Tribute Total, you just got 2 grass types, and I'm not sure about the the Kalinga control. Somebody may add to that. Methylated seed oil with Celsius always. Yeah, and that's another thing with Tribute Total. I do especially when I'm trying to kill Dallas grass or something, I'll use methylated seed oil. But I did an experiment this year where I sprayed Tribute Total on one patch of Dallas grass, glyphosate on another patch, and then self-inserting on another patch. And the glyphosate ended up winning out. Now I was doing it when the grass was mostly growing on Bermuda lawn, which is actually legal to do that on the label. And then I gave it a couple weeks, and the glyphosate was winning, but none of them had actually killed it. I was showing one, comparing 3 different products, but I was also showing just how hard it is to kill, even spraying it with Roundup. And then I came back and sprayed them all 3 again with Tribute Total for a second out. So, when you use Tribute Total, they'll say on Dallas grass, spray it like twice in the fall and then again in the spring. Well, I was spraying it, winter basically, and then did another out in the winter, and it just still didn't kill it. I could go back and look to see if it's dead now. And the glyphosate one, it was mostly dead. I mean, but it's so hard to kill. I mean, I hate that stuff. I tell people, if you got a yard full of Dallas grass and you're in business, tell them you don't want to do it. Just say it in the nicest way. I'm sorry, ma'am, but this yard has got so much Dallas grass, and there's an illegal product to use called MSMA. But if you want to buy that, it's just not legal. But I'm not really interested in taking on your yard. How do you feel about using or not using herbicide on newly laid Bermuda sod for the first growing season? Well, I mean, Ryan, that's a good question. I had one I went and looked at the other day. Matter of fact, I looked at it about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, and you can still see the lines inside. And I reached down; it had been overseeded with ryegrass, but it was Bermuda grass yard. But I guess the sod farm overseeded, or maybe the people that built the house or something. But I reached down and grabbed it, and I could still pull it up. And I told the lady, I said, "Hey, I'm not going to spray anything on it right now." I said, "But what I'll do, I'll make a note on my calendar to come back and check." And so I went back and checked the other day, and it was rooted to the ground. And so I went ahead and sprayed on Bermuda. I might be a little bit more cautious on a zoysia lawn or something like that, but on the Bermuda, I felt fine spraying it. And I'm already late on getting it down for crabgrass and stuff like that. But I'm not one of them that thinks, it's got to be down for a year or something like that. To me, that's just ridiculous for Bermuda. I mean, it's going to take root very fast. And I've put Bermuda through some bad situations, and it's still I think the rule of thumb is after it's been cut twice, So what happens is the sod is trying to grow roots, and it's pre-emergent and chemicals, all that's not going to help it. So if you can wait, let it take root, and then once it takes root, it's going to start growing leaves, growing the grass up, and once you mow it twice, you're pretty much good then. So that would be kind of the rule of thumb then. Bermuda yard full of weeds. Bermuda's pretty thin. What's the best approach to start cleaning them up? Well, this is a thing I've thought about before, and we've talked about maybe. But if let's say you got a Bermuda yard full of weeds, and the Bermuda yard is thin, just like this guy's situation, you think, well, if I spray a pre-emergent, is that going to hinder the Bermuda from spreading as much? In my experience, not so much, and I've got an explanation why. But the other thing is, like, if you can see all that dead crabgrass from the year before, at least you can in my area, and I'm thinking, if I don't spray this yard, then I'm going to have crabgrass all summer long, and what's going to keep the Bermuda from filling in is all that crabgrass. It can't compete. The crabgrass will just grow so thick, you can't hardly get any Bermuda past it. I'm like, if I don't get the weeds under control, I have virtually no chance for the Bermuda to spread, because a little bit of Bermuda will spread a long way. I've got 4 acres at my house, probably 3 acres of grass, and I covered it all with not that many pallets of sod, just letting it spread. But I had to get the weeds under control. So here's my thought is, I mean, I don't know where you live, but for us, we try to get our pre-emergent down by the end of February. But if you mix your pre-emergent prodiamine, and I did a video this week about crabgrass control strategies, because crabgrass eats up Bermuda yolks. But if you did that, you prodiamine and put in there like a quinclorite product, like Drive Accelerate or something like that, and mix them together and spray it. Hopefully you can get a lot of that crabgrass under control. And now you put down a pre-emergent, and you put some change up in there, something like that, to knock out a lot of the existing weeds that you got. Well, then you think, well, is the pre-emergent going to hinder it from spreading? Well, my thought is by the time the Bermuda really starts spreading, we're talking about July and August into September, it's going to spread a lot. I think a lot of that pre-emergent is probably not as effective anymore by that time period. And you got the weeds under control, and you're not getting killed by crabgrass. And now you got a clean slate for that Bermuda to spread, and you can put the fertilizer to it. I mean, you can start fertilizing it now or May or whatever, at least by May. And I think it make up a lot of ground in 1 year. As a matter of fact, I know it can. I mean, I've got basically a football field in my backyard that the last time we saw it, we put 2 pallets of sod out. And we just had the sod on the back of a trailer, driving around through there. And I was just throwing the sod off the trailer and covered 2 acres with basically 2 pallets. And I had a little bit growing in one area before that. And it filled in a tremendous amount. Now, the first year I didn't do it till too late and it got cold, but the next year it went crazy. And now, like I said, I basically got a football field back there, or driving range, whatever we use it, soccer field. So how far does your bottle of spectacle flow go with your business? Looking to add it in my fall pre-em instead of Prodime. Well, you know, I buy I guess it's a gallon. I guess it comes in a gallon, and it's outrageous. I mean, it's like $1,900 per gallon, but I will say this. I think the patent might be running off in about 3 years or so. Hopefully there comes out a generic version that's at least half the price. You know, that would be awesome. I mean, that will be just great. But for now, it is expensive. But I mean, I use it. You can do, some people do like 2 apps of 3 ounces each, maybe September and again in November, something like that, because the POA just keeps germinating. I've done 6.5 ounces per acre on Bermuda and zoysias, just 1 app, and I've had good results of that. And then I'm using in May or late April through May at 6 ounces on Bermuda zoysia. I'm using 4 ounces in the fall on the centipede and St. Augustine. I'm not using it all in the spring on centipede and St. Augustine. So even at those costs, at 6 ounces per acre, I mean, it goes a long way. I know $1,900 is sticker shock for sure, but it goes a long way. And so your costs per 1,000 are not just crazy. And to me, it just like using it in the spring last year, I did so much less spot treating weeds in the summer because it did such a great job. So I think, well, I'm saving money on the spot treating, which I'd be using Celsius and certainly walk around spot treating weeds all the time. And just the time it saved me. So to me, it's worth it. But anyway, 6 ounces per acre. I'm trying to remember something like 19 acres or something that it covers. That may not be exactly right, but you know, I mean, 19 acres. Let's just say that's right. Somebody else might know or could do the math. That's a long way, you know. So 6 ounces into, so it would be a gallon is what, 128 ounces or something like that. If you did that and divided by 6, it would tell you the answer. Let's see if I can tell you the answer. I think it's 128 ounces in a gallon. Y'all got me off on a bad math day. 6.5 ounces. Yeah, 19.7 acres is what a gallon will cover. So, I mean, that's a lot of grass, especially if you got a bunch of little yards like I do. All right, bring on questions. We got about 7 more minutes, and I'm moving on with my life, doing something else. I did put a video up this morning. Y'all can check it out after this. It was 10 mistakes with people driving zero-turn mower, or 10 grass cutting mistakes. I had one that I used to do when I was actually mowing grass. I don't know if y'all have seen this, but we get out there in the morning. So I'm going to get an early start, you know, and the grass is wet, and you get out there with your big zero-turn mower. And I don't know why I used to do this. I wasn't thinking. Or maybe I'm blaming on who was working with me at the time. But anyway, you got your lawnmower, all that wet grass in the tires, and you come out onto the driveway and turn around. And what happens? You leave this big green smeared tire mark on the driveway that you're about to get a pressure washer to get off. Or if you let it get off on your own, it's probably going to take 3 weeks for the rain to wash it away and it fade out. So, I mean, don't do that. I think another one I put on there was like not getting close enough to obstacles. You ever been mowing with somebody, maybe for your business, and they leave like a 3-foot gap off of a house? You know, I mean, when I'm going around the house or a fence, like I'm wanting to make one pass. You know, I'm not having to make a pass and then come back and be swinging my trimmer wide. I'm like, man, I need you to get close to that fence because I need to buzz through there. And so people just, just stuff like that I, of course, blowing grass all over the driveway, up in the beds and stuff like that. But it's made for YouTube kind of thing. But I think it'd be a little bit helpful. Mine are mostly postage stamp size, 5,000 square feet, sometimes a little more. Thank you for your answer. I'm going to add. Yeah, I mean, at that, James, like for me, a 5,000 square foot yard, let's say I'm going to charge $58. It's probably about what I charge, depending on the area and all that. And I love those size yards. I mean, I love them a lot. And I like the 3,000 square foot. I got one the other day, it was probably 500 square feet. I thought, yes, I'll do this yard. That's my favorite yard. Next door to one I was already doing, that was probably 2,000 square feet. Oh, this is great. But those prices, to me, it's definitely worth it. Now, when it gets to be tricky is if you got a 50,000 square foot yard and you're charging them $6 per thousand. $6 per thousand. So I'm trying even on big stuff. Now, if it's huge, I'll go less, or maybe sometimes the real huge ones, I'll modify the program. So I'm not using Spectacle. I'm gonna spray it. I'll wait till January and I'll spray the whole yard with glyphosate if it's Bermuda. But if it's 5,000 and less, to me, it's definitely worth it because if you're over $10 per thousand on your price, and you put the Spectacle in there, I forget, $3 per thousand, whatever it is. To me, that's still, you're great. I mean, I think it's worth it. You're still making good profit. You're in and out. And I hate getting callbacks. I hate thinking my customers aren't happy. Like right now, for instance, in my schedule, let's tell you this real quick. Like I sprayed prodiamine and change up and metsulfuron in round 1. First year I ever did that. And I thought the two weeds I struggle with in the spring are field matter and yellow wood sorrel. And then about this time, you start seeing the American burnweed pop up. Well, I spray that round 1. In round 2, I'm fertilizing a slow release fertilizer. And in round 3, I'm going to start in a few weeks and I'm going to be putting out Spectacle and probably change up again, unfortunately. They want to. I was thinking if I did the change up round 1, it was going to knock out this yellow wood sorrel and field matter because I know it'll knock it out. I mean, it works great on those weeds. Well, it come around 2. I'm out there fertilizing. I'm still seeing yellow wood sorrel and stuff. So I don't know if I used too low of a rate. I don't know if it just showed up after that. I don't know what happened. I mean, I'm blanketing the yards. Now, I was using 12 ounces per acre and 1/4 ounce of metsulfuron, which is really, really low. I probably should have went up a little bit on the change-up rate. But it just didn't give me the results I was hoping for. So now I'm going to basically have to use change-up again on the next round with the Spectacle. But what's happening is I got this little gap in my program where like from now for 2-3 more weeks, I might get a few callbacks because they're starting to see the weeds. Not everybody's mowing their grass yet. And if I can I might actually send a letter out to my customer email saying, you guys give me till this next round. We start spraying real soon with the Spectacle and everything. And I'm telling you, it's going to fix the problems. And my yards last year when I did that, I mean, they looked great during the summer. It solved a lot of problems. So I just got to get through these next 2 or 3 weeks without too many complaints. I may have to go out there and do a few calls on weedy yards and all that. How can I get rid of my neighbor's grass that is infesting my Bermuda? Well, I don't know what kind of grass I have, but I know a lot of times if you've got centipede next to Bermuda, the centipede will invade over into the Bermuda. And I mean, it's hard to get it rid of, to be honest with you. I mean, the one thing you do is in the dormant time, you can spray it with glyphosate, like 32 ounces per acre in January or so. But even then, it's hard to kill it. I mean, I've done that and done that and done that. I spray it with all kind of stuff that centipede doesn't like. And I'm just assuming it's centipede. It may be something else. But it's really hard, to be honest with you. Now, the MSMA is not legal. It probably scorched the centipede and would work. But if it's centipede, it's just going to keep trying to run over there, I'm afraid. Roll back. What's the grass? I'm not sure the question. Oh, what now? St. Augustine. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. He's asking rollback. That's the other guy's name. You have me all thrown off there. He says St. Augustine. Yeah, I mean, St. Augustine is pretty sensitive. So whether you spray it with Tribute Total in the summer, would that knock it out? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of products that are going to be labeled for Bermuda that are not labeled for St. Augustine, but sometimes the ones that are not labeled for it don't necessarily kill it. They just kind of damage it, and so, but I do think it's going to be an ongoing battle. It's just, even if you killed it, it's just going to keep trying to creep over. Now, I have seen neighbors, literally, I don't know how big of a section, I'm picturing 1 yard in my head, and they actually have a little brick line there that's kind of level with the ground almost, maybe just barely sticking up over the ground to try to keep it from running over there. But like if it was a line like that, you could literally edge the bricks and when you're cutting the grass. And again, if it's 100 feet, I don't know if you want to put 100 feet of bricks, but they got them buried where they may just barely stick up over the ground or even level the ground, and they can keep it edged. And that's a pain, but that's one. Chemical wise, I think there are some options. I think zoysia. Yeah, I feel like Bermuda, it just gets real thin. Now in the summer it can look great and all that, but in the winter it thins out. It just seems like it's the weakest link with other grasses growing, because I don't feel like I see, when there's Bermuda and St. Augustine, the Bermuda running over into the St. Augustine, or the Bermuda running over in the centipede, or the zoysia. It's like all the other grasses invade the Bermuda. So it's a problem, but I don't know. I put some St. Augustine in a shadier area that is next to my Bermuda, but I hadn't really had that problem. But the St. Augustine's not doing that great because I don't take care of it very well. So, all right, we've been on here an hour. Any last minute questions? I'm going to go do some other stuff. Appreciate y'all watching. Rainy day here in my area. Oh, here we go. Let's see what we got here. One type of grass on one side and then one type on the other. Okay, so you got like zoysia on one and St. Augustine. Yeah, you got your hands, you got your work cut out for you. Jason, I have common Bermuda in my zoysia. Any help? Man, it's hard to get rid of common Bermuda. That's what I'm saying. My yard was the nastiest yard of all time when I bought this house 4 years ago. Awful yard. But it had a little bit of common Bermuda, just like about everywhere it does in our area. And I sprayed it twice, I believe, with glyphosate in the middle of the summer when hot weather, and just trying to kill it because I was going to go back and plug Bermuda sod. And now, 4 years later, it looks great, but there's still patches of common Bermuda in there. And you don't really notice it when it's cut and stuff, but you can see it. It's just not quite as tight and pretty as the hybrid Bermudas. So, I mean, I twice sprayed. I mean, even I could get out there now and probably when it gets warm, I'll see that patch and I could spray it and try to kill it, and then get back there with my little pro plugger thing and try to plug the hybrid Bermuda, or in your situation, zoysia. I'd say zoysia might. I don't know. I've got zoysia yard. It's similar. He actually, one I take care of, and he had chinch bugs one summer, and it left this big dry spot. I say big, maybe 3 foot diameter circle that got real thinned out. And man, I'm telling you, before anything, the Bermuda had filled in there. And you're like, where did they come from? And it seems like in these yards, if there's a weak spot, Bermuda jumps in there before the other grasses. And then it's there. It's just so hard to get rid of. So that's another sad answer. Sorry. It's destroyed my yard hundreds of hours of maintenance. Wow. Well, for that, you may want to try the brick line, and the bricks may do better, honestly, on the St. Augustine. I'm not sure about the zoysia. I'm afraid the zoysia might go under the bricks and still come out on this side. But I don't know. It's like trying to get rid of bamboo. I got bamboo at my house. I had bamboo at my last house, and I spray it and mow it and spray it and do all kind of mean stuff to it, and it's still, it's still there, unfortunately. Molecular scientist, enjoy your weekend. Thank you for the explanation on pre-emergent spread in Bermuda. Well explained. Yeah, appreciate it. Just fertilize and get the weeds under control. Pretty good plan to rely. Is it a good plan to rely on Celsius to take care of small crabgrass on the bank, or bank on getting dry accelerate? I found that Celsius, a lot of times I'm almost always mixing certainty with Celsius, but I think Celsius alone is pretty good on this. But Celsius certainty does an awesome job on foxtail, which is another annual grassy weed. Got this little pink center. I mean, it just dominates it. And I would say better than Drive Accelerate. But if I was going after, sure enough, crabgrass, I would probably get the Drive Accelerate. Now, it's not that expensive. Like just quinclorac. I mean, you can get on Amazon or wherever, but it's a 64-ounce bottle. I don't know if it's $60 or whatever, but it covers 1 acre. And I'm trying to remember mixing it for 1,000 square feet. It'll tell you on the label how much to put in there. And you might even want to put the methylated seed oil or just some sort of surfactant. But It works great. Now, sometimes what I can't figure out is I'll spray it right now, and I know there's crabgrass in these new customers' lawn. I get a new call this week, and it's somebody I know they got crabgrass already germinating, and I'll spray it with a drive accelerator, and then this summer they'll still have it. So I'm like, did it germ? What happened? And I'm mixing it with prodiamine. Why doesn't it kill it when it's tiny? But in the summer when I see it and I spray it, it does great. Now Bermuda and zoysia, I wouldn't use it on centipede or St. Augustine. It'll burn a hole in it. And I think on the label it says like be cautious. Well, I just tell you, it'll burn a hole in it. So I wouldn't use it at all on those. In the new housing subdivision, the ignorant neighbors decided to change their grass type. Oh man. Yeah, I think sometimes I see that where the neighborhoods around here, they just throw Bermuda down everywhere. And it's almost like sometimes I see the other side, I'm like, why would they not let somebody put zoysia in? But to your point, I think it makes sense because you end up with like grass creeping over into somebody else's yard. It probably is better from just all have the same type of grass, unless it's like an isolated backyard situation that they wanted to put zoysia or something. But I don't know. I don't know I don't know a permanent solution for that, unfortunately. You guys are great. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys. I got a lot of video ideas I'm trying to implement here. I'm gonna try to do a lot of weed control testing. I'm gonna try to, like one video, I'm gonna try to use metsulfuron, which is like so dirt cheap, and I'm gonna do a video something like I killed all these weeds with $1 worth of herbicide or something, because $1 metsulfuron will spray a long way. So I think I go actually for less than $1. I'm gonna try to like no surfactant and everything, spray a weedy spot and just see how many weeds can I control on like a 50-cent application. And then I've got my new Z spray I was telling you about. I'm gonna try to do a lot with that. I'm got some nasty weedy yards I sprayed a month ago. I'm gonna come back and show what they look like now and just kind of tell you the process of what I'm doing. And trying to, YouTube's so complicated. You try to like make something that's people want to watch, but I don't want to get away from like teaching people what I'm doing. And some of it's kind of like almost made for YouTube. It's a little bit, I don't know how to describe it, but it's got to have a fancy title and all that for anybody to watch it a lot of times. But I don't want to turn it completely into that. I want to keep trying to help people that really want to know something, not somebody just kind of purely watching for entertainment. But it does need to be somewhat entertaining too. So it's always just know I'm trying to balance those two. It's not always easy. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you subscribing if you haven't done so, and we'll see you around.